Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. In addition to Archman, a couple things that stood out. I got to be quick here because I got to get done with this here really quickly. The second thing that stood out, I thought some of the comments from the Alabama football players were very interesting. So Alabama, remember, of course, last year was year one of the Kalen DeBoer era. 9-3, you can say, it was fine for a transition year. That was an incredibly talented team. And I think the frustrating part was you beat Georgia, you beat South Carolina, which was pretty good. But you also lost to Vandy, you lost to Oklahoma, which was a 6-7 team. So it was up and down. I thought some of the comments from the players, though, were very interesting. Okay. So this is from Deontay Lawson. He is a linebacker for Alabama. He was in the program under Coach Saban, and obviously was part of the transition when DeBoer took over. Here is what he had to say about a couple different things. He said about this Alabama team, quote, "We're starving," he said. "We're not hungry. We're like starving." And that's different. That's different just to see no one transfer out of here when the time came, man. It just shows you that we got guys that are willing to do what they have to do to make us the most successful team that we can be. I'm just super excited. I know the guys are ready, and we go at it with each other every day. And I'm sure we all can't wait until we see a different color jersey, even though we haven't even gotten into camp yet. What I also thought was interesting, he talked about the transition from Saban to DeBoer. Here's what he said. He said, "I feel like especially last year, it was hard, man. You're coming from Coach Saban to Coach DeBoer. Everyone is going to have something to say. Everyone wants to know, how's the new coach or what's the difference or something like that. But yeah, man, we were all for Coach DeBoer. I remember he walked in, the first day he walked in, we all sat up in our chairs ready to go. And from that day on, it's been all in on the DeBoer train, probably now more than ever." Okay. So first of all, I think the comments are interesting. I'm starving. Listen, I know every player is going to say that, but I do think at Alabama, it is a little bit different, right? You don't come to Alabama to be good. You don't come to be 9-3. You come to compete for SEC championships and national championships. And for the players that were there under Saban, remember, they won the SEC in his final season. Okay. Win the SEC, go to the college football playoff, lose to Michigan in that classic Rose Bowl game I was at, by the way. But so I do think there is something there of them saying, "Oh, we're starving, we're this, we're that." But what I also think is true is some of the other stuff that he said, basically saying, look, we're all in. And I thought this was interesting. I was talking to my buddy Ryan Fowler about this, is that I think Ryan kind of said, if you spend time around the players, they're not going to call out individual players. But he said, look, man, last year, I don't think everybody was all in, right? Say you're at Alabama for 3 years, you're going into your senior year, Nick Saban announces he's going to retire. You really don't want to transfer. You got 1 year left. You want to make it work. And so I think the guys last year were kind of like, dude, we're at Bama. Let's just stay. Let's finish what we started. Let's see how it goes, okay? And so I only bring it up to very simply say that, to me, I think maybe everybody wasn't all rowing in the same direction as much as maybe we thought this past year. At the same time, though, what I would also counter by saying is this. I think everybody is absolutely rowing in the same direction this year. And if you're not, it's kind of on you, right? So I was talking to Ryan about this. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. So Saban retires 18 months ago. He retires in January of 2024. It's currently July of 2025. So that's about 18 months. In that 18 months, remember, Alabama's players have had 4 different portal cycles to leave. Because when Saban retired, there's a 30-day window to enter the portal. Remember, whenever your coach leaves, you can enter the portal for 30 days after the coach leaves, whether they get fired, whether they quit, whether they retire, whether they take another job. Then there's the normal spring portal that was going into last year. Then last year gets played. You have the December portal cycle. And then after that, you have this spring portal cycle just a few months ago. Well, first of all, it's worth noting Alabama lost 0 players in that spring portal cycle. I think, to me, that's a great sign. because it means that everybody's all in, everybody's in the same direction. Guys aren't being, tampered with to the degree that they're going into the portal just to take more money. The fact that they lost 0 players in the spring portal, as Deontay Lawson referenced, I think that is a great sign. What I would also say beyond that, though, is I think it's a sign, like I said, that everybody is kind of going in the same direction. If you are not bought in after 4 portal cycles and you're still not sure about this coaching staff, or to take it a step further, you still feel like you're above it, or you don't need to listen to them, or you're a Saban guy, it's kind of on you and you're kind of a jerk. If you're not bought in, go somewhere else. It's okay. This is what the transfer portal is for. But if you're here, you got to fall in line and fall in line with what Kalen DeBoer wants. To take it a step further, I'll say this. I really do believe that Alabama, I think, has a chance to be, listen, good is not the right word. They're always good. I think they're a little bit off the radar going into the year, though. I really do believe that, because the bottom line is, look, Georgia kind of, Alabama fans, I know you would disagree, but Georgia kind of took the mantle as the program, the coach, the this, the that. They just won the SEC last year. Texas is kind of the hot new thing. Everybody wants to talk about them, Sark, Arch, whatever. Alabama, remember, won the SEC 2 years ago, went undefeated in SEC play. I think that's interesting because last year, Georgia won the SEC with 2 losses. So Alabama went 9-0 in their final SEC season, if you include the conference championship game, and we're not that far removed from that. Now, the one thing I will say with Alabama, schedule, like so many teams, is pretty thankless. They have to go they open with Florida State, which I don't think is going to be easy. Florida should be improved, or Florida State should be improved, excuse me. You have, obviously, Wisconsin before the start of conference play. Then you open up at Georgia. Now, the good news is at least you get a bye going into that Georgia game, but Georgia has a bye as well. And so I just, I think it is going to be tough to go to Georgia. Then remember, they also go to South Carolina, which is much improved this year, or should be very good. And they close at Auburn. And you can say whatever you want about Auburn, but we know the last 2 times they played at Auburn, 2 years ago, it was the miracle play, Jalen Milroe to the wide receiver, who then immediately transferred out of the program. Don't need to name his name, Bama fans. You know who I'm talking about. And then the time before that, even in the peak of no one believing in Brian Harsin, Auburn took Alabama to double overtime. So those are your 3 tough in SEC road games. You have Florida State on the road, and then you still have Tennessee, LSU, among others, at home. So the schedule is tough, but I believe in this team. I also would say this too. I think the arrival of Ryan Grubb, I think it just takes a lot off Kalen DeBoer's plate. It was hard enough to take over for literally the greatest coach in the history of college football at this time last year. Well, guess what? Now you had to not only take over for the greatest coach ever, you also, on top of it, had to take over for the greatest coach and the greatest coach ever without your right-hand man. So I only bring it up because I think Alabama is going to be, again, much better. Like Vegas has them winning 9.5 games. So I don't know what that would even mean, being quote unquote much better. I do think they're flying under the radar. I do think they're going to be really good. I do think they're a good story.